Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Life and Literature. My name's Emily and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler review of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in the I Court series, Aikoto series, however you want to say it. So if it's something you'd be interested in, then please keep on watching.
Feyre.
Immortal. She has rescued her lover Tamlin from the sadistic fairy queen and now possesses fey powers beyond imagining. But
Feyre
cannot forget the destruction she brought to save her beloved, nor the bargain she made with Rhysand, High Lord of the feared Night Court. And
as Feyre is drawn
even deeper into Rhysand's world, she senses a dark pain in his heart echoes her own. For good or ill,
Feyre
must embrace the changes within her. War is looming and only the full might of her new powers can save the people she loves. So this is the second book in the fantasy series by Sarah J Maas. If you haven't seen or read the first one, I would recommend it, otherwise you'll have no idea where this story is going. But this follows
Feyre as she
kind of dealing with the ending of the last book. She has been turned into a fairy. She has immortal powers put upon her. She is stronger, physically just, I think, more stunning. It's kind of put. She's kind of become everything and more than she ever thought. And she also, though that amazing thing happened, she went through such a dark, traumatic time, and she's kind of dealing with the events of that, how she's coping beyond it, what she's going to do with that kind of information and knowledge. It's really darkened her entire world. You're kind of thrown with her back at the Spring Court with Tamlin. She is having very dark nightmares to the point she's waking up in the middle of the night in kind of sweats. She's throwing up and she's not processing the whole ordeal very well. She's not wanting to go anywhere, do anything, read, paint, enjoy, just anything that she found the smallest bit of joy in the darkest times before. It's really broken her as a person, and I think you're really kind of getting thrown in the aftermath of someone's trauma. She's very traumatised. You can feel it, you sense it. Sarah J Maas really went into good detail with how and why she's feeling the way she does, and the fact that she's not processing it very well and she's not talking about it to anyone. It kind of shows that she's kind of still living in it. She's not allowing it to kind of move beyond the point. She's still very much immersed in the kind of destruction and devastation of the trauma, and you kind of learn how, I think you, if you've read this, you know where I'm going, how awful Tamlin is as a character. Now, I was a bit slow on the agenda. As seemingly, compared to other people when I've read other reviews and seen other people's opinions, he kind of starts off, firstly, it gets described about the fact that she's thrown up next to him, like he is next to her in the bed, and he's seemingly aware of it because he's having his own trauma and nightmares of the experience, but he doesn't really want to talk about it. And I get maybe his own thoughts and opinions he doesn't want to talk about, but even to be there for
Feyre and
actually ask her what's going on, whether she wants to talk about it, he just doesn't push. And I think some people are like that in life. They don't want to push for people's emotions and thoughts. They're kind of just, because they're so used to dealing it with their own way, they think other people sometimes the same, and that's where he was being a bit ignorant and let's just say not my favourite character. He wasn't my favourite one in the first one, but I still enjoyed his kind of influence and banter, but then it still doesn't sit well with me that he knew all this was going to happen and he didn't really explain to Feyre and give her a fair shot of understanding, because he was already assuming that she wouldn't understand, she just wouldn't get it. And that was kind of very big-headed and ignorant. And then it's with this, she's going through this really traumatic time. I understand he must have gone through things as well, but at the same time, she was the one literally fighting for her life. She didn't have powers to kind of bring her back. She hadn't had hundreds of years of experience. She was still quite young, so it was very disheartening starting to see her like pull away from that, because it built it so much up in the first book. And you go straight into learning that they're engaged and there's a wedding that's being prepped, but also a whole new character. So obviously you had Lucian, he's still there, and they will have a pretty good relationship as friends, Feyre and him. But you kind of learn very much that she's kind of been left to focus on the wedding and do wedding basic stuff, doing the general, like what you do if you're the fiance of a High Lord, just the general kind of invites and party planning. But she's just not into it at all, and she kind of hates it completely. And you can kind of tell that. So Ianthe is a new character, the new woman who is one of the priestesses, who is trying to help Feyre kind of navigate this new world, her influence in it. And Ianthe comes across really nice at the beginning. She's very understanding and calm and very happy to take over and do what needs to be done. But I would say, within the first 100 pages, drama. Feyre does not catch a break. So they're planning this wedding. The wedding's going ahead to the point where she doesn't even care about what she's wearing. And I think that's the biggest telltale sign that she doesn't want to go through with it. She doesn't care enough, because she's wearing this big huge gown, she doesn't like it, she mentions it, and they're just kind of like, oh, but this is the fashion. And whereas a partner would probably be like, wait a minute, no, if you're not happy, like, we'll wait, let's sort something out. But he's just like, oh, we'll just go with it. And he's kind of really disassociating himself to Feyre as an actual person, rather than someone that could maybe be just on his arm. And I think he's very uncultured in love to have the experience maybe to be a decent person to a woman, or be a decent person in general, because he's very hard to read in some of these pages. And she doesn't want to go through with the wedding midway down the aisle, and reading that was very interesting. I think she was fully about to have a panic attack, and
Rhysand,
in true dramatic fashion, shows up and whisks her away for his supposed week that he is allowed to have her due to their deal, and why she's got still the tattoo on her arm and her hand. And in being at the night call and seeing it, it's not exactly how she imagined, and she does kind of get a whiff of a couple more people and realise he kind of has people around him. And that's like your first introduction properly to him, not just this kind of random mysterious man in darkness that keeps doing these really great acts of kindness, but also kind of clouded by ulterior motive. And when he takes her back after this kind of week, she is looking better, she's more fed, she's kind of starting to get a bit of colour back in herself, because they were describing her very much as like she's just gone so, not just within herself, like the darkness seeping in, but she was just so withdrawn and she was just not looking herself. And I think through the chapters you start to kind of get this really common ledging with Rhys and her, and how they could have a lot of similarities and the things they've gone through, and you're starting to kind of piece together where this is going to head and who's coming out on top through this. I did think it'd be more of a fight between Tamlin and
Rhysand,
but it wasn't, and it kind of went very, obviously it didn't go amicably, but it in some ways did, because I thought it'd be more of a physical together fight and Fair wouldn't know where to go because she was so in love with Tamlin. But actually through them months, it was about, I think a couple of months, I think about 3 months after the incident, before the wedding and that whole incident happened where
Rhysand
took her, she hadn't really thought of him and in any way, and spending all that time with Tamlin and the love and all the memories they'd like made whilst she was learning about the Spring Call in the first book was kind of just washed away as if it just didn't happen. So I felt a bit empty at that point. I was a bit gutted because I felt like there should have been more of an altercation. Obviously there was a slight altercation where she wanted to leave, she wanted to go out, and Tamlin would not allow her, and he actually locked her in the house, which was a massive trigger for her. It was a massive point of PTSD. It was not fair, and that was completely belligerent of him. And I think that's the turning point of, you're like, I don't like you anymore. You are a shit character. I don't want to learn any more about you. Like, go to the side, get me back, Rhys. I want to read more of their relationship. And they go and take her and bring her back to the Night Court, where she kind of starts to become herself again. She finds interest with talking with people and learning and kind of widening her scope of understanding of the courts and the court of Night and the people surrounding Rhysand and what they mean to him and what he means to them. I think seeing that kind of level from friends of how much they loved him and devoted their time and energy, I think from anyone, that makes you understand that person even more, because you're seeing people see them in a different light. And she started to understand more and more the things he'd done and why. And I don't think it was kind of like the whole love at first sight, but I think she started to grow an admiration for him and what he'd gone through, because he also went through darkness as a Mantra's whore, and you kind of sense there's been so much more, which eventually we'll learn, but in this book it's still kept quite neatly under the rug for later chapters, which is very smart of a writer to keep you continually growing your knowledge of them. And eventually they do kind of start falling for each other, and it's really lovely. It's very slow, their kind of admiration. Fair's very late to the party. You can kind of tell he's getting a bit infatuated with her, but he's massively on her side. Everything she wants to do, it's her decision, her choice. He never forces an opinion or decision or encouragement. He kind of gives her all the knowledge and the facts, and is kind of like, do what you want to do, like, up to you. And I think that's really nice, because she's starting to feel that freedom and that understanding that she can have an opinion that's just for herself. She doesn't have to think about everyone in the room or affecting somebody else. And I think she was doing that a lot of Tamlin, thinking about his thoughts and his feelings of, oh, he's already told me this, so I know he won't like it. She was just thinking about herself then, and she needed to be a bit selfish. She'd gone through a really hard time, and I was really encouraging of that as a reader, to be like, yes, like, yes, go do what you want to do. That's what we want to read. And it kind of gives you that self push that you want to go, you want to do something, you want to encourage yourself the way she was. And she'd gone through a really dark time and still trying to overcome it, and she wasn't letting herself forget the dark moments, but she was allowing it to let her grow as a person. As their adventures proceed, they go on and they learn more about each other whilst doing numerous amount of things. The plot is just kind of all over the place. I'll be honest, there's so many different things and elements that's going on that it's kind of hard to kind of remember, even now, fully the extent of all the different subplots of what they're doing and why they're doing certain things and why they're in certain places. But But the overall gist of it is obviously they feel a war is coming and they need to kind of get on top of it and what it means for their people and their involvement. So she's starting to understand Rhysand's really making Fair aware of the severity of the situation and how that could involve her in the future. So he wasn't trying to shy away from anything, he was straight up with her. And then very oddly, they have a situation, they're mid-flight, the king that is trying to overtake and do all these awful things, a group of his men find Rhysand and shoot him down and hurt him, and luckily Fair is there with him in his arms when they cascade, and she's helping him, she's trying to find a cure, trying to do things to help him, but she is exhausted, she is drained of all her powers, and she's still not mastered or understood what they fully are yet. I feel like it's quite nice because you're kind of learning what she is and what she can do as she does, which as a reader that's what you want, because you are reading from that perspective. I don't personally like jumping between different perspectives all the time or going into like a paragraph of where it's no one's perspective, it's kind of an outside. I think it takes away the kind of connectivity you have with that character that you are trying to build, so that you want to read more of their story. Now everyone's different, that's personal perspective. I personally like it, so reading from her and not knowing fully her extent of things just kept me wanting to read more. And she goes off, she cats a cereal, which she done in the first book, she done it quite with ease. It's the same one, very charming, very sweet, and very nice encounter. And she learns and asks a question. She learns an answer to a question she didn't even know she had, and that is when the cereal lets her know that Rhysand is her mate. Now the word mate I'm not thrilled about, because it's a very odd term. I wish it was more of a creative term than just mate. Maybe because I'm British, we say mate a lot, and it's very much like, you're right mate, hi mate, like, so it kind of I'm desensitized to the word mate. It's the same as like friend, that you read it in a paragraph of text and it's a bit like, oh, it doesn't stand out as much as you'd probably like it to, like the effect. However, with the extent of the knowledge that she gives after it, you kind of learn the severity of what a mate is and what that means for Fair, that she's kind of bound to him. What I personally took from it was that she felt like some of her free will was taken away from her. She wasn't deciding who she wanted to be with. The kind of fate was pushing them together to be like, this is your one person, this is who your physically embodiment is going to want to be with. And I think she got really scared of that and felt like all the decisions and options were taken away from her, and that's not something you want to do to someone that is still kind of reliving trauma and going through so much, digesting everything that had happened to her pre-Over the Wall, then Over the Wall, Under the Mountain. It was just a lot for her, and I think she kind of acted out and just managed to get Rhysand away and back to the camp where everyone was, and managed to then just disappear because she just needed time, which I completely get. I think anyone being told as you're just starting to get to know someone, like just imagine if you were dating someone and then one day you just get told, oh no, that's who chemically you're going to want to be with the rest of your life, and then it gets cemented in, and like both of your genetics is going to push you two together, whether you're emotionally or mentally ready for it or want it. And I think that's quite a daunting aspect, and she'd already gone through so much. I feel so sorry for her. I feel like she needs just a month to be alone and with her faults. So I kind of like that she was just off on her own and kind of taking a moment. But then when Rhysand found her and they kind of rekindled their love and cemented it fully, clicked the bond in place. It was very nice to read. But yeah, still not fond of the word mate, so I'd like to know what you think. You can put in the comments down below what you think, if you agree with me or if you don't mind it, or if you think it should have been a whole other word together. I don't know what, but I think reading it for like a couple of chapters is just kind of enough, I think, because it's not even like, they don't even use the word like partner, girlfriend in any other way. It's just mate. That is my mate. And to me that just means friend, so I had to keep kind of being like, oh okay. It took me a minute, but they kind of go off and they manage to get back, and you think all is going well, but then again drama. And to be fair, it's quite a chunk of a book, so I understand why there has to be so much drama, because you want to keep going on and on and on. But then they finally come across and get brought to the king that is trying to break down the wall, and they find out Tamlin has partnered with him to get Fair back. Not only has he done that, when Fair is very much disassociated with Tamlin completely, she's learned and understood his behaviour was toxic, it wasn't right and what she wanted, and she was very easily led to almost be in this kind of unhappy life, and she was getting shown a whole new world where she was respected and loved. And again, then she was just brought into a situation where she was being forced into it, and she just was not happy. And then Elaine and Nesta, her sisters, show up, and they are getting put in the cauldron, which is just a whole other layer of story, a whole other plot. And I did have to keep taking a minute, because the first book was quite slowly paced, that you could kind of start to understand what things are, where they're going, and kind of the dimensions of everything. But then this book just felt like there was just too many subplots and off journeys, and it's just a lot when you're getting technically a whole new love interest thrown into the mix, as well as whole new other characters. I mean, in the first book, for at least a couple, like many chapters, there's probably maximum 4 characters, which is just Tamlin, Lucien, Fair, and one of the maids that helps Fair get dressed, which she kind of becomes very friendly with. So they're kind of who you've got for a very long time in the first book, so you're very, very slowly eased in. And then this book, there is Cassian, Azriel, Mor. There's just so many aspects of every character you're learning about their background, who they are to who each person, and then you're getting old characters come back, and then you're getting a whole new characters, and then you're getting a war, and then her sisters come back in the mix. It's just a lot to process. So I didn't enjoy the pacing of this book. I still enjoyed learning more about the characters. I definitely want to learn more about Azriel and Cassian, because I like their dynamic with Rhysand, and the whole relationship there is very much giving off family, which has been done quite a lot, of like, you don't always get born into your family, you find your family. But then up until this point, she was very close still with her sisters, even though she had been apart from them. She still held them in really high regard. So to see her sisters in that situation, she can't do anything to save them at all. And then they get put into the cauldron, which they don't even know if they're going to survive, was again very traumatic. And Tamlin kind of just says he doesn't think that was going to happen, but again, he done no precautions before, because all he wanted was Fair back, and Fair had said to him categorically, I'm good, don't want you, but he just couldn't see it. So it was a bit sad, because I think Tamlin was trying everything, because he truly believed Fair was being corrupted. And I think that's when I'm like, Fair should have got involved at that point. I understand she didn't want to be with him, but fucking let the guy out of his misery. Like, just say point blank, I'm not going to be with you. Like, he had gone through trauma as well, And this is where maybe I'm too nice of a person to characters, because a lot of people spit on Tamlin, and I do for a lot of the scenes. I don't think he is a great person. I don't think he's a great character. I can understand why he was pushed to the curb, but at the same time I'm like, but respect that you have had a relationship with him, you have slept with him, you have been in his bed up until like a month ago, so give him the courtesy to actually say to him, I don't want you, because evidently he's gone out of his mind and thought you had been taken. And it's just, that's when I'm like, the concept just doesn't make sense to me, because of course he'd probably do something rash, of course he'd go to the ends of the earth to try and do something dramatic, because that's what he done to try and save his people. Like, he had many of his friends and soldiers killed for him to find the woman, the human woman that would fall in love with him. Like, he'll go to all the lengths, so the fact they underestimated him kind of annoyed me a little bit. But they finally get Elain and Nesta out of the cauldron. They are Fae. They're all good. Obviously not mentally. They are clearly very traumatised, and she works really quick on her feet there, because she just pretends this entire time she's been some kind of curse, and she runs to Tamlin, which was very, very, very smart. Very quickly tells Rhysand what's going to happen, and luckily he understands, and he fully is supportive of it, and they break the bond. They break the bond in between the tattoo, which was part of I think the strongest part of them kind of communicating, like kind of almost telepathically, but because they were mates they still had some of that there, but obviously no one knew they were mates, or that they'd cemented that, so luckily they didn't kind of allow that to get out anywhere, because I think it would have ruined the entire plan. So we kind of leave it there at the end of A Court of Mist and Fury. As I said, the pacing's a bit all over the place. The story is very hectic. I did have to have a headache tablet after this, I'll be honest. But again, I love the character Fair. I really do. I think she is such a strong, capable person and character that you are always willing to encourage mentally. I'm like reading a line and I'm mentally encouraging it, going, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And I think that's when you know a character's like really cemented into your heart, and you just are gonna root for them no matter what. So I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you have any opinions, thoughts, please put in the comments below. I love seeing what other people thought and how they kind of see my opinion, and maybe what they do agree with, what they don't agree with. Any points I may have got wrong or miscommunicated, then please let me know, because we're all here to improve. And I hope to see you in the next one. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.